There is nothing, and I repeat nothing, more 90s coded than an entire episode of television featuring an existential crisis about turning 30. Here on Feature Please, a vile visit to Bejor. My name is Joseph.
Help! The plot has fallen, and it can't get up. Your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek have we decided to watch this week to review for our listeners' pleasure?
Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 18, Distant Voices, first aired April 10th, 1995. Direct teleplays by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf. Those are our two big guns right now. Story by Joe Manosky. Yeah. That's more big names. Directed by Alexander Singer. Whatever. I'm standing here in a extremely unique position right now in Season 3, which has been overall fucking fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And, what was the last one? It was
Visionary.
Which was
the lost space-time injury.
That was a fun one.
It was.
Profit Motive sucked. This thing fucking terrible. I got two of your three bottom three episodes for Season 3 right here. Such close proximity too.
I think this episode was so close to being good, it's painful. It's not, but I like it way more than you. And if it wasn't for some structural weaknesses at the beginning and a couple things that didn't quite work as it relates to the concept that held the whole thing back, and they definitely exist, I love it. I think it does a great job of talking about Bashir as a character in a way that keeps what they decide to do with him later on quite accessible.
Absolutely not.
I'm really looking forward to debating this with you then. I thought for sure we would see that exact plot point the same way. I'm a bit surprised.
Lunch with Garrick, snip it off, tack that 2 minutes on any other episode anywhere else, ball the rest of this episode into one big congealed nugget of shit, throw it away.
Damn.
This is an episode where I knew exactly what it was going to be, and I'm thankful that it did not try to coyly play too long at figuring out that, hey, this is all an episode of Herman's head.
Yeah, I felt that was maybe what I found clever about it, is Julian Bashir is somebody of such deep intellect and mental fortitude, is that he basically beat back a telepathic attack. That's what we got to watch. And there's some elements of this that you can read into the fact that was possible because he's augment, right? Like, it should have killed him and it didn't, right? Why? Why is he so special? Well, there's explanation later on. I think that's why I found more in it than you did.
I will save all of my talk about where he ends up as a character for later because I jumped off the deep end on a coworker on this. We're opening up with lunch with Garrick, who is very welcome to be seen. And I don't think we've seen Garrick since... It's been a while, hasn't it?
My goodness, yes, Civil Defense. So we haven't seen him, since episode 7.
He gets a little bit of playtime here, but it's not the real Garrick for the majority of it. But he's here for the part that counts, and it's this lunch. And he gives Bashir a gift, which is a sample of cologne with a bow tie on it. And of course, we know that these are their data chips. It's a Cardassian data chip. It's a holosuite program. And it's some more dry, predictable Cardassian propaganda, which I'm really enjoying Garrick legitimately and authentically presenting himself around media. It's the only time that I think we can consistently see a real, truthful Garrick in his obsession with the Cardassian ideal and his buy-in.
His authentic embrace of what Cardassia is.
No, not what Cardassia is, what Cardassia wants to present itself as. And what I'm picking up...
That's true. The propaganda, yeah. No, that's a good point.
In the way that Gul Dukat is being handled by his political opponents and by the social justice system and what has happened to Garrick. I think that Dukat is ultimately a great Cardassian and a patriot. And I think that Garrick is a great Cardassian and a Patriot. And these are both people who are heavily under fire by their contemporaries and those above them and those below them. And I think that Deep Space Nine more and more is becoming a TV show about paragons in exile and people who want something better than what their culture actually wants. So right now you got Gul Dukat, you got Garrick, you got Quark, and probably Rom and Nog. And that's a whole cluster of misfit toys there. You got Odo. You've got this religious girl, Kira Nerys, who wants better than what Kai Wynn wants. Who else is out there that's better than their race?
I mean, Dax in a more complicated way. We've had several episodes about the contentious relationship that Dax has had with the Symbiote Commission, with Jadzia herself, Curzon. She's like an exile in unto herself and of her people and not. It's very complicated for her. And Bashir is ultimately going to be an exile too. He's going to be an exile from his own greatness, which is part of what this episode starts to reveal. I know, I'm trying to pull you in. I'm trying to... You listen. I listened to some gold just come out of your mouth. I listen to every fucking word. I very much agree. I just think that this actually feeds into that more than you are willing to give it credit for, because it has all of the shit you hate in it. And I know that about you by now. I know what you hate about episodes of Star Trek, and this has all of it.
I'm sorry. I've got eyeballs and ears, and I had to, unfortunately, my cell phone was not able to shield me from them. So he gives Bashir this piece of holodeck propaganda, and Bashir is not good at hiding that he doesn't like gifts. This entitled little fuck.
It's very rich boy behavior. I don't know how else to put it.
I'll tell you, as a parent, you spend real time training your children. Even if grandma gives you something you already have, or you do not want it, if you don't get what you wanted, you still smile and say, "Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to play with this." Bashir never got that talk.
No. I learned this lesson the hard way once when I did this to my mother.
Oh,
in a way that I didn't.
Tell me about the story. Got slapped in your mouth.
Why was my first year in college, and I was in Washington D.C. And she sent me a bunch of Skyline chili, and it was the Skyline chili with the beans in it. I don't like the beans. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Mom. I appreciate it, but I don't really like the beans. So, I'll have to find it to some people who, might want it." This was not the correct decision.
And I'll tell you right there, anybody who's living outside of Ohio, you probably don't have canned Skyline products in your grocery stores.
Yeah.
I love Skyline chili. It looks like dog food, wet dog.
Don't care.
It smells
delicious.
It's good. It is expensive. Those fucking cans of dog food are very expensive. So your mom put some real money in on this gift. So what did she do to you, Joe?
She did exactly what she should. She cried in the presence of my sisters, who then immediately called me and said, "What have you done?" My twin sisters call me like, "You doofus, idiot brother, what have you done?" And then I explain, like, "Oh, it was just this." And they're like, "You're so fucking stupid." They said other things, worse things, but I deserve to hear all of them. And I apologize very much to my mother after I was educated as to what I had done. Well, anyway, Julian Bashir never had sisters, I guess. Correct his behavior.
Well, we're also talking about privileged. You already touched on it. Imagine the far off distant land of 1995, where the prospect of turning 30 is old. And it's just funny, dude, that we're doing this episode right now, because tomorrow I'm going to be on a plane to Nashville for my friend's 40th birthday party extravaganza. I put a pic. Did you see the picture I posted on the trauma support group?
I did.
The 3-tier bunk bed that sleeps 6, that looks like a cube, the Borg bed.
Yes.
I'm going to be in that thing. That 30 could somehow be daunting. The fact that I'm supposed to be believing that Julian Bashir, who has gone toe-to-toe with the space pope and told her off.
Yes. Right after he told the head of the fucking Cardassian CIA off.
And this dude's been 28, 29. I'm sorry, 27, 28, 29.
What's more humiliating, to be told off by some random doctor, or some random doctor who is not yet 30 years of age?
Can anybody doubt Chief O'Brien for being contemptuous of this little 20-year-old bitch
Yeah,
buzzing
talking
around
about
his,
how he wants to fuck ballerinas while he's hauling your ass around whatever planet that was after they got gassed.
dying from space aids that Christmas elves
This
made.
is how I die. With having to talk to this fucking guy. It's amazing that they're friends.
I was thinking about it when I turned 40. And I remember when my parents turned 40, my mom specifically, and her siblings got together and, we did the party and they had Spencer's Gifts, which for the international audience is like this store in the mall that sells all the dirty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mugs with boobs and more mugs with boobs. And now there's a bunch of marijuana crap in there. But they also have like all the novelty cards with like dirty birthday cards or whatever. But they also have or had all of the over the hill party stuff, which you don't really see anymore.
No, 40 is not considered halfway through your life the same way it used to be.
And I remember it was all like old man this or old lady that, and your life's half over. And man, if my friends had done that for me when I turned 40 and confronted me with like geriatric flavored cards and novelties, the level of seething mad I think I would have gotten. Right?
Yeah. That is a party favor that has definitely passed its prime. I think on my 40th, I won a Magic the Gathering tournament, so I had all this extra money, and I decided to rent a cabana at the Venetian in Vegas for the day. That's what I did on my 40th birthday. And when you do that, you have to spend at least $800 on food and beverage.
Easy.
Like that's the minimum. And like there was some doubt apparently amongst those of us who were there that we could do $800 in a day. Like I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a problem. Spoiler alert, it was not, and I'm very glad I won that Magic the Gathering tournament to pay for all of it.
Super nerdy. On my 40th, yes. We went to Cancun, and I was drunk in a pool looking at a beautiful ocean. Julian Bashir is not going to be drunken in a pool. What he is going to be is approached by Quark, who is not happy and is not his normal chipper, slimy facilitator self. Something is very wrong with Quark, and he's got this, what do they call, a Lysican?
Lethian, which is not something that immediately Bashir responds to. Like, I don't know if like he didn't know what a Lethian was or didn't know anything about them. But after we find out what Lethians are capable of, I am not sure I would be at anything less than DEFCON 5 in one's presence.
That's because you are not an enlightened space anti-racist. You are a dirty earth
racist. I'm a dirty earth xenophobe who, if I'm going to walk by an alien who apparently can just one-shot me with brain frying powers, I'm just gonna stay the fuck away from them. That's just a species I'm not interested in getting to know. They might be the nicest people in the world, but you cut them off in traffic, you're just gonna be in a coma. You're just gonna have a stroke. You're dead.
Basically. So
Quark, Jesus Christ.
Clearly under duress, with his arm being twisted behind his back, asks Bashir if he has any stem cells or something that's very illegal to trade in the Federation.
Biomimetic gel, a illegal substance that will come up again later, and they will better explain why it is illegal. But is apparently felony level to possess. Yeah. This is like fentanyl.
Not actually. Felony level to possess, and I want to talk about this because I hate this fucking episode and I don't want to talk about any of the stuff after this scene. Asking around with intent to procure it is considered a felony in the Federation, right? That is correct. Lines out of this thing. What other crimes have we witnessed happen on Deep Space Nine? Did anything jump out at you?
Well, there was the time that Worf literally dangled a man over a ledge and threatened to kill him. So that was attempted murder, probably. Yeah.
How about when the guy who would later go on to shoot the guy recovering artifacts for his people went to Odo and other members of Starfleet and said, "My intention is to murder Quark." Yeah, no, they were good. That the guy was going to murder Quark. He told Odo that he was going to murder Quark. That is not a punishable offense under Federation law. It's like saying, no. I have intent to murder, but intent to buy naughty gel.
That'll get you.
That will put you in the pokey. So let that
Threatening
sink in.
to murder the local Ferengi? No.
Not a big deal.
Buying
Liver
Fent?
toss.
Yes. Well, this is like Singapore. I don't know. Like, what is
kind of
this?
gel is this? Because I'm just gonna, in my mind, this is just decontamination sparkle gel from Enterprise that has now become extremely controlled.
Biomimetic gel, and the biomimetic actually does tell you a bit about what it does.
It's the mime Pokemon. You can make it look like your friend's mom.
Oh, Jesus. that's where you're that's the first thought.
They harvested off the rogue planetoid that the space sticks guys were.
It's basically it's a precursor for doing bad things with science. It's the thing you do before you do like biogenic weapons and cloning. So that's why it's illegal.
Murder not illegal. Intent to murder not illegal. Bashir tells him to fuck off. Again, it's a nice moment where Bashir's like, I don't care what kind of nightmare face you are. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to tell you right now in front of my friend Garrick, you're not getting any of my stuff. And I love that Quark on the way out after this guy fucks off. He's like, oh, hey, by the way, so you guys are at the Rebel Mat. You know, we just implemented a brand new lunch menu. And Bashir slipped into being stank again because he's turning, oh God, 30. Which Garrick gives him some cover on.
I like that Garrett gives him shit over it. Like, why do you care about that? Like, I grew up in a species where being old is considered an accomplishment.
Bashir goes back to sickbay. The lights are off, and he tells it to turn on the lights. And then he sees Nightmare Face over there just ransacking his shelves, which these aren't like, it's not some like hospital Pixis machine where the controlled substances are being held in a safe or some sort of a vault.
This is the ultra high trust federation where you just leave your illegal substances out with marks that says these are the drugs.
You leave them on shelves that have backlit walls and glass tops. You can just, it might as well be samples at the department store, just inviting you over. And this is great continuity here because Bashir now sees a intrusive alien committing crime. Last time it was those dickheads in chain link suits kidnapping or trying to kidnap Dax. And rather than take a step back and call security, what does he do, Joe? He runs in to fight the guys.
Yeah.
No big deal. What's the worst that could happen, right? So they start to tussle with some standard Berman era bad fighting. And I don't know, the guy gets him like kind of a bear hug, and somehow he's swinging the double axe handle around. We get some good sound effects. And then the guy does his Mortal Kombat down diagonal forward punch.
He does the fatality on him. It's the stage fatality.
Mm-hmm. Kazaps his ass. Gives him the Worf treatment. There's Shocky all over him. And he collapses and we roll to credits.
So this got the Emmy for best makeup.
Get the fuck out of here.
I thought the old man makeup was very well done. Given the era, I can see why it won. It was very well done.
What can you
They
think
made him
better?
Especially the very, very old man makeup. It's tough to do it that well.
I'm trying to think if there's been any really terrific makeup on this show. I'm thinking of the bondage clowns. I'm thinking of those sleepy painter guys from Delete the Village.
I try not to think of Delete the Village.
I'm thinking of the Jem'Hadar do look cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm thinking about the space hillbillies from Chutes and Ladders.
This is probably the best. Yeah, this is the top tier makeup job on the show.
I'd say Rumpelstiltskin looks better. I would say that the Jem'Hadar look better. I think there's been some better underboob in there, but you're never going to get a costume nod for that.
You are definitely dedicated to being a world-class hater on this episode if you're unwilling to compliment the makeup. I just thought, I get it. This is tough. You do a nice progression, right? They start him off a little older, and as time goes on, they progressively add more and more. It's tough. Tough to do that kind of good visual design with an effect like that that's all practical. I thought I liked the craft in it. This is where I'm going to start to agree with you more. The problem is that about half of the plot as it relates to him working through the fact he's in a coma doesn't work particularly well, or it's very annoying. The stuff that doesn't work is the impish representations of his emotions in the form of all of the other cast members, because otherwise they're not going to be in the episode. So you're stuck not actually with the characters. You're stuck with like Kira Nerys being angry for no reason and Odo being suspicious for no reason and representing different elements of his personality as a consequence. Like Cisco shows up for approximately 8 seconds to be how great he is at being a doctor. And that stuff all kind of sucks because once you get the joke, there's nothing more to be done with it.
The biggest disservice being O'Brien, who is his best friend on the station. O'Brien, who is an absolute fucking badass. A guy that he watched go full MK Ultra and rock the shit out of people in guerrilla warfare, and somehow his mind casts him as the pussy.
That's the part that doesn't work, right? Like, it would have been a much more, I think, effective use of exactly what they did if the characters actually substantively acted like the people that he had personifying his emotions, right? Rather than just playing out the emotion, right? Kira doesn't act like Kira that's particularly aggressive. Kira just acts out being aggressive. And yeah, it comes off as silly and it lacks in depth. And the only part where it starts to pick it up is specifically with Altovar, the villain, and like what once Bashir has unlocked that he's trapped in his own mind, this guy's showing up and basically turning into a supervillain and laying down some pretty fucking awesome lines about how he's basically going to hollow his brain out until he's a vegetable and then make him linger as a withered husk before he finally kills him down the road. That's cool. This is kind of, I like that energy. I just don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's here. It's just like, I'm glad this is picking up, but it's like you didn't do enough to make me care about this as much as I think you wanted me to.
For what they're doing here to work, Altovar needed to be actively sieging him remotely. It needed to be some sort of astral projection. I'm actively casting a spell against you, and as I'm talking to you in your brain, it's me talking to you from the outside, and I am actively witnessing what's happening here, and I'm actively manipulating the situation. It can't be your own mind working against yourself, and this is just a manifestation of me.
You're absolutely right. Then the fact that that's not what's happening at the end actually hurts the episode.
Because had Altovar been remotely broadcasting in and working towards killing Bashir, and by the way to do this episode would have been that Bashir cracked the code on a murder and was going to pin it to him, and that this guy starts psychically assaulting him to prevent him from filing the report with Odo or snitching on him.
Yes, covering up a crime that he was witness to. But perhaps even stealing the substance in question. Now that we know it's a high crime, right? You've spent your opener establishing that. You uncover that he's got a huge shipment of it coming into a fucking cargo bay, and he zorts you to try and prevent you from being able to turn him in before he can run off with his stash.
He's in his quarters, meditating, psychically assaulting you. You're on the fucking operating table. Everybody cares. The rest of it can all say the same. Once he is an external alien influencer forcing his way into your mind, the manifestation of the crew around you can all work fine. Mm-hmm. Cut down the zaniness on them. Make each of them really embody something valorous about you, and let him kill them off one at a time so they resemble who they're supposed to be. They're not just throwaway stand-ins. Their deaths are felt with an impact. And you buy in that that's a us versus him and not just me versus different facets of myself as I somehow will myself out of a coma.
Precisely. And that's when I say this episode is so close to being good, if they had just applied the exact same concept through a slightly different lens, it would have worked so much better. That's precisely really what I'm talking about. The overall intention of Bashir having a particularly resilient mind as he fends off an attacker and finds a way to emerge under unlikely circumstances by a sheer ability to pull the Starfleet officer trick of figuring out what the fucking space bullshit is, right? That's actually really well done in the episode. Like when he's talking to everybody and he's like giving orders and working through the problem, right? That like puts him in a position of like, oh, I get why you're a talented space professional now. You're doing the Starfleet officer thing, and I like it. But they undercut the growth by making it not an actual antagonist he's against.
Mm-hmm.
He's against himself the whole time. And it might have been unlikely that it succeeded, right? They make a point of making that clear to the audience at the end, but it's not nearly as impactful as if he had beaten back the psychic assault and like caused that guy to go into a coma and now he's been caught.
This is
And
the
it also
worst
leads to
version.
that question you're trying to leave open about what exactly is what makes Bashir so special that he's able to do something no one else would be able to do, to answer later.
This is the worst version of a Chakotay episode.
God, oh, this isn't as bad as Chakotay. Joe's Chakotay episodes were bad. And by the way, that's so interesting you bring that up, because would you like to know what episodes of Voyager Alexander Singer did? The
All
first
the
one was
shitty
Tattoo.
dream.
It was Tattoo. You know what else he did? Threshold.
I love Threshold.
You know what else he did? Resolutions, the one where Janeway and Chakotay are stuck on a planet and he gets cockblocked by a monkey.
Chimpanzee cockblock adventure hot tub. It's a good time. Seeing the Deep Space Nine set depopulated and quiet is so jarring, and it really drives home how important the truckfuls of extras that they have around all the time are to making that place not look so crappy. Because empty, it looks like a fucking laser tag arena shopping mall, and it is awful.
It does feel like a Doom level when it's empty. Like, legit. It is the most Doom level looking it's ever been in this episode. The blinking lights, everything's kind of busted, all the static and voices. You're like, you turn the corner, you expect to find a Hell Knight and have to start to beat it down with the super shotgun.
Just like 90s cheap shit everywhere. And again, hats off to the production crew for taking these cheap sets, this budget conscious show, and being able to make it look so different under normal circumstances. Do you see that they're using a new flashlight in this?
It's not a wrist-mounted flashlight. Yes, it looks more like a caving flashlight.
It's not the... because they used to have the one that was like... I don't know, the semicircle flat. This thing actually had a directed beam, and I wonder if they wanted to preserve shadows more. When the thing jumps on top of the turbolift and starts wrecking it, and again, I saw this thing as a dream episode from a million miles away, but it is interesting to think about monsters rampaging on Deep Space Nine. The only time we've really had that legitimately happen has been Odo.
Yes.
But it should be limited damage. Again, Deep Space Nine, Terek Nor was a prison facility made to house a hostile population under duress. And we've seen before that the bulkheads are resistant to phaser fire and other stuff. Like, this would really be a great place to have a monster or a dinosaur or something chase you, because all these walls should be reinforced.
You know, if it's not going to make it as the space Bucky's or Deep Sheets 9 as we prefer, it could always serve as like a sort of game preserve. You know, there has been hunters that have rolled through chasing their prey. It has an attraction to that. It can basically be Jurassic Park for the Dick's Sporting Goods people.
So by the end, he has figured out that he didn't need to get to ops, which was the belief. Once he gets up to ops, he's got Garak there supporting him. Garak hasn't really dissuaded him from anything, right?
Garak has always facilitated him to a degree, but in a way that's almost unhelpful. Like, he volunteers nothing. He just always does exactly what he's told and no more. It's a very annoying form of helpful, and it is like the open question in the episode of like, well, Garak is clearly not like everything else in his brain. What is he? And that part of the puzzle, I feel, works pretty well, right? The part of this where they're teasing or suggesting that some version of this script was about this alien trying to take over Bashir's mind remotely and playing on what he was finding inside it to succeed. Because as we'll see, something about this kind of psychic attack, the psychic assault, requires Bashir to give up, right? He can't just win by force. He has to like get some sort of acquiescence by grinding him down enough that he gives up the ghost, literally.
I am
And
genuinely disappointed that they break the mold that all versions of Garrick are unhelpful to the bad guy. Because if you
yeah,
remember,
the Search Part 2 version of Garrick is maybe the best one ever.
absolutely, where you have a hostile holodeck NPC assisting the good guys and pointing out that the bad guys are up to no good. They get up to Ops, which again he believes that he can repair a sensor relay and somehow start fixing his brain. And as they start, well, I also like that they really lean into that geriatrics trope. Bashir falls as an old man, and of course,
Can't get up.
Breaks his hip.
Yeah.
They get up to Ops. They start popping access panels, and they're all full of tennis balls that just hit him in the face. And that's really where Garrick starts to shine, is the idea of balls hitting Julian Bashir in the face.
Yeah, so, they start with something strong, as I said. Again, I want to defend where I feel like this episode's ideas really almost work about him understanding he's under attack, that this exterior force is attempting for whatever reason to destroy his will and hollow him out. He's resisting it. He's using his Starfleet reason. And then we get into some after school special level character motivation stuff that smacks of we really haven't thought through this guy's story. And we're going to go with some things that aren't particularly compelling on a dramatic level. And I was going to be a tennis player, and then my parents weren't going to approve, so I'm going to be a doctor instead. Like, the fact that they make that work a lot better later on by adding a layer to all of this is helpful in my mind in a way perhaps it is not to yours. But there's nothing more like rich kid coded in the entirety of my life than I couldn't be a professional tennis player because I had to be a doctor.
And then I couldn't be the best doctor. I sabotaged myself
to avoid the pressure. Which, again, you layer on, I could have been a tennis player, but I felt self-conscious about the fact that I was genetically altered and I didn't want to play competitive sport for a living because I would have been cheating. And if you layer on, I purposely didn't get first because I know I'm genetically altered, and if I was first, it would feel fraudulent. This is where the shit starts to work a lot better.
But it
But
does.
I can't give them credit because they had not figured out that that's what they were going to do.
Complete disservice to all of it. And so he gets to sick bay because that's where the real center of his world is, and that's where the real reset button is, and that's where he's able to fix the problem, take control of his faculties, and Lawnmower Man, you're in my world now. Erect a force field around the bad guy and use the old incinerator chamber protocols from the Cardassian days.
It's not quite the same as the step into my tube of horrific diseases like on Cold Station 5.
We could only be so lucky.
But it's the next best thing. It's the disintegration triangle.
So let me lead the conversation here because I can give you where I know or where I think things will go. All of these Julian-focused episodes, and specifically the one where Dax elects him or nominates him for the Lifetime Achievement Award, work really well because they show him becoming very uncomfortable with the idea of attention being drawn to him. And while they didn't know where they were going to go with it, in retrospect, it's a perfect retcon. And then there's this fucking thing. None of this stuff works, and it all stands as an affront to where they ultimately go with it. Because, again, this isn't an external force real-time tunneling into his brain and marionetting him through difficulties and talking to him real-time and trash-talking him. This is his own mind working against itself. So the fact here that at no point does it go, you are afraid of greatness. You are afraid of being found out for what you really are, that you have this terrible dark secret, and becoming a tennis player would have exposed it, and becoming the best doctor would have exposed it, and working somewhere near the core planets would have exposed it. And instead you have fled in fear of what you really are to the outskirts of the Federation, to the furthest point possible, to hide, because you're a coward who is ashamed of himself. Like, you can't do that because you don't know that's where you're going to go with it. If he
And the story
was,
begs for that moment so hard that the absence of it, knowing what's going to happen, becomes noticeable. Like you said, it's the perfect retcon. It really is, to explain why he has these specific intense anxieties about his life.
mm-hmm.
But even in the more charitable view that I have taken of it, and that, boy, I really understand what you were going for here, and I really feel like you were closer to nailing it than most people probably think. It seems like the most hateable episode of the season by a lot. Um, the retcon fails, that is absolutely going to be at the core of everything in his mind, if it's driven him to be where he is despite what he could be. You're absolutely correct. And to the credit of the writers, the writing that they are able to do with him in the aftermath of this secret becoming known, um, attempts to address some of those anxieties. This is where some things intersect that are maybe a little unexpected, but ultimately, in my opinion, make Bashir one of my favorite story arcs for the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I say all that context because I think I'm finally getting to the core as to why I am much more charitable towards this than you. And so it's like, I know that this is the origin point of something that's much bigger and much grander, and really works when you start to put it back together in retrospect. And I'm willing to overlook this obvious flaw that we're pointing out because, well, they couldn't have known at the time that that's what they were going to do. And they
That's
can't go
just a
back and
piece of
fix
why
it.
this
So,
thing fails, though. And, I think maybe there's a big lesson to be learned here for all writers is, if your options for what is the major flaw, why are you not great? Why are you afraid of something? And it's either stepping forward and saying, there's this dark thing in your closet that you're ashamed of. And I'm not going to mention it right now, but we're going to put some seeds down for first putting a J.J. Abrams mystery box out there. Or making the culprit that your parents disapproved of your tennis aspirations. That's an
which
easy.
was which
That's
was
an easy.
actually the idea at the time, and that's the shame, right? Like,
It's a huge shame. So if I'm going to fix this thing, and we've already put all the pieces on the table, it's you make the bad guy actively psychically assaulting him and intruding into his thoughts to narrate, and that completely obscures the truth about the genetic engine, the augment status, and gives Bashir even a reason to be like, yeah, right, absolutely. I didn't want my parents to know that I love tennis.
and he like gets clued into, like, if you really were revealing my deepest darkest secrets, if
Mm-hmm.
you really had full access to me, you would
Yeah.
have told me my worst secret to me a long time ago, and you don't know what it is.
I
Like
still have a running chance here. Tone down the silliness of the characters. Turn this more into a Wizard of Oz thing where you've got your compatriots who are along with you, or like a never-ending story deal where you've got O'Brien and he's your courage, and so and so and so and so, and have at certain points the bad guy confront Bashir and be like, I am going to get you now. And one by one, these NPCs throw themselves in front of the bad guy. He watches them die. He's horrified by it. He's forced to confront these deep friendships he has.
yes,
And even visual representation of these people dying to protect him still wound him and like strengthen his resolve not to give up. And that final moment at the end where it's like, I've watched you kill too many of my friends. I'm not going to let you have this. And from hell's heart, I stab at thee and
yeah, give him a
incinerate you.
nice. I mean, it's maybe basic, but it's much more heroic and much more entertaining.
Charitable towards everybody, because this doesn't
Yeah,
leave anybody looking especially great. He's an enfeebled old man at the end. Everybody looked like a fucking clown who died, except for Cisco for some reason. So this is an episode that is about, gosh, exactly what you said. They were so close to doing it the right way. I'm not going to hold this episode against them because I think 15 more minutes in the writer's room of discussion. What's the...
So, not a lot actually of content on this. They think that they kind of did what they intended to do with it at the time. They weren't thinking of it contemporaneously the way that they ultimately decided to retrofit a backstory that makes it still work. So there isn't a lot of like looking at it from that perspective. But something you said when you were kind of unspooling all of this information that I wanted to return to, Bashir's story arc moving forward is very much about, you almost have to put his future, it's the thing you should be spoiled about when you're watching it. Okay. Maybe that's the right way to put it. If you're somebody who's never watched Deep Space Nine before, I think you almost need to know, hey, Julian Bashir has a dark secret. He's actually like an augment like Khan. Keep that in mind as you watch. Like, the show doesn't know that that's the story it's going to give him. And once you know that that's the case, it makes every single thing about his character history make sense, from his cocky overconfidence to his weird lack of practical skills being supplemented by his near ridiculous levels of professional skills, to his intense level of confidence to tell the most powerful people in the galaxy exactly the way they can shove it. Um, this is a guy who doesn't seem to have any kind of care about vulnerability in any way. And he can just chalk it up to him being young, or chalk it up to him having a weird sort of almost self-annihilation impulse over the guilt of what he is.
Hmm.
So I think when you consider that that's actually his story, and obviously once they acknowledge it within the story, it becomes even better. And at that point, the writing is deeply matured. Sidney Faisal has matured as an actor, and we are able to do some very cool shit. Even early on, I think you can apply that layer of story on top. In addition, where you're talking about like where it does disappoint, though, boy, is this ever a lesson for the thing that Ron Moore in particular was fucking bad at in Battlestar Galactica, and that's figuring out your goddamn plan before you start writing episodes.
Yeah.
And like, these are his contemporaries. These are people he worked with, and that's the shit that fell apart in Ron Moore's hands as he started building BSG. Is that he had a great season 1, and then he just never sat down and figured out exactly what the rest of the story was going to look like after that, and was just flying by the seat of his pants, and eventually it just flew off into incoherence, and the show did not have a strong second half as a consequence. And this is like kind of an example of that, where they put a bunch of stuff out there for Bashir and then later on figured out what they wanted to do, rather than spending the time sitting down and be like, I don't have to write every word of this guy's backstory. What the fuck is going to go on with this guy? Like, you used to drop a mystery box, go a step further, figure out like what universe of problem he's going to have, and figure out the details as you go along, and everything else that you're writing can kind of play into it.
Well,
that's that. I think we both ranted, and we both have the same opinion ultimately, which is this episode's probably the worst of the season, and it almost couldn't. It almost works, but just doesn't.
it could have been great.
Just doesn't.
And I think the primary culprit of why I didn't like it is not charitable to the cast.
Yeah. I think if you had versions of the characters in Julian's mind that represented the characters better and more heroically and more interestingly, maybe this episode ultimately works well enough that you can overlook its flaws. But because it doesn't have that, the flaws stick out too much.
Speaking of flaws sticking out,
Ooh.
Speaking
Not
of
a fan of where we're headed next week.
Well, who can be?
It's a rough neighborhood out there.
It's bad. You don't want to be there. Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 19, Through the Looking Glass. Gee, I wonder what this could be referencing.
I at some point they do exhaust all of the Alice in Wonderland references, but not until Discovery, I think.
Mm-hmm. As another Mirror Universe episode approaches, will Joe remember to play the correct intro music?
I will this time, I swear to Christ.
In a Mirror Universe, Sisko must persuade the alternate version of his... Why did you... should have told me not to read this one, man. This is beefy.
This is in the teaser. This is in the teaser.
Sisko must persuade the alternate version of his dead wife to join the Terran rebels, or he will watch her die a second time.
And it's not exactly a hidden plot point for very long in the episode, right?
Yeah, he should be convincing her to come back over to the fucking Prime universe, man. Like,
time to move out, Jen. Just come on. I swear I'm better than the other guy.
I swear you're gonna fucking love it over there. We are not slaves. It is great. If you see the plight of humanity and your wife is in a position to actually help good people do better things, that's a rough position. I hope they play with that, like him having to come to terms with he can't have her because that universe, that humanity there needs her. And this is a guy who is just willing to die himself in the Bell riots to preserve humanity. So some fun things they could touch there. I'll be interested to see if they go that direction. Speaking of direction, I see this is Rick Colby, so that'll be nice.
The Sisko is a widower plot, such as it is so far, has been well handled. I think once you introduce this idea with the first Mirror Universe episode, Sisko's not in that one. It's Bashir and Kira who get pulled through.
Yeah.
You kind of begs to, you have to do this, right? You have to have him meet the Mirror Universe version of his wife.
Absolutely.
I think this is probably the more interesting way of handling it without it being only about that, right? Like, how do you handle this in a way that like gives your character some pathos, but like it's not just about Sisko pining after a woman who sounds and looks precisely like his dead beloved, right?
The volume of Mirror Universe episodes that Deep Space Nine has, because I see there's 13 in the arc for Mirror Universe. I think it'd be really cool if the 13th one somehow pays off in the Dominion War, and that there's something that they're able to like, some payoff there where our frequent trips over there have been for a reason. Maybe the prophets have been involved in sending us there, and either that they bring a technology or the answer to a dilemma, or somehow get to shunt a lot of the fucking Dominion that's coming in to attack them into the Mirror Universe and let them fight with the fucking Cardis.
I regret to inform you that the final Mirror Universe episode of Deep Space Nine is a dog-ass Ferengi episode.
That sucks, because that'd be like, here we are, we're playing.
You just came up with so many good ideas that I had to make sure you knew that none of them were going to come
Star
true.
Trek Mass Effect, we've got the Mirror Universe DLC. Boy, what's this going to add to the war chest? And like, yeah, like, here comes a big invasive fleet. And like, cool, you guys are a bunch of assholes, and this is where the prophets decide, we're going to trigger that fucking dimensional door. Asshole group 1, here's asshole group 2. My name's Paul, and this is between y'all. Peace.
There's a moment, I'll point it out when it happens in the show, where like perhaps that is what happened. Prophets, they work in mysterious ways. Maybe they do dump shit into the Mirror Universe just to fuck with it. Maybe that's like how they get it out of their system.
I love it.
And we will love reviewing more Star Trek and talking to you about it out there. And we will see you next week.